Hi everyone! The weather the last few days may have been wild, but I hope that other things seem calmer this week. It's so nice outside that I'm going to try to record this in the backyard. Hopefully there won't be too many power tools in use. Our church council is reviewing guidelines and recommendations as we consider plans for reopening the building, and we will communicate these plans with everyone once we have something more specific. In the meantime, as we've been saying since March, the building may be closed, but our church and our ministry continue. As I said last week, I'm going to be using some of the readings in the Revised Common Lectionary during the summer. This week's readings include Genesis 18:1-15, where Abraham encounters God in the form of three strangers who suddenly appear outside his tent, and Matthew 9:35-10:8, where Jesus sends his disciples out to bring healing to the people. I think these verses give us a starting point for our own ministry and interactions during these challenging times of health concerns and social unrest. When Abraham encounters these three strangers, he doesn't hesitate to invite them inside to stay and eat. Tradition has sometimes said that they were angels, sometimes that the three visitors represent the three parts of the Trinity. We could debate this for years, but through their visit he receives a shocking word from God, that in a year his wife would have a baby, something they never thought possible. When he sees these strangers, he doesn't ask where they're from, why they're at his tent, whether they're friend or foe. He welcomes them. In the ancient world, and still in some cultures today, hospitality is not just a custom but a social obligation, a responsibility to help someone who might be in need, with the reminder that another time you might be the one in need. And society will fall apart if people can't count on each other. The Bible has many stories that exemplify this need for hospitality, either through showing how a host should act or through examples of failed hospitality. The important part is the generosity and inclusion of everyone. Now, of course, Abraham doesn't know that these are unusual guests. He welcomes them because it's the thing to do, not because he's looking for something. There are stories in many cultures of gods or kings traveling incognito to see how people behave. And we even have the recent example of the TV show Undercover Boss. The question is whether people do what's right because it's the right thing to do, or because they know someone's watching, or because they think they'll get something out of it. The prophets frequently remind people that caring for the vulnerable, the widow, the orphan, the stranger, is part of our responsibility. This theme of hospitality also comes up in Jesus' interactions and instructions as he commissions his disciples. But this time, it's about how they'll behave as guests. If they find someone to welcome them, stay there and graciously accept the hospitality. I think he's warning them not to keep looking for a better host and trying to upgrade. But he says that if they're not welcomed, to move on, not to fight about it, and he also tells them not to ask for payment or pack a lot. He says, "You received without payment, give without payment. Take no gold or silver or copper in your belts, no bag for your journey, or 2 tunics or sandals or a staff, for laborers deserve their food." Now, if you had seen me packing to go off to camp when I was younger, you would understand how odd this sounds to me. I'm usually the one that says, well, we might need this on our family trip, so we better take it just in case. I wasn't quite like another camper who brought 3 outfits for each day at camp, but some years I came close. But that's the point. We can trust and rely on God and on people's hospitality, and not try to bring everything we might need. And what did he send them to do? He said, cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't done most of these in a literal sense. I did perform CPR on someone one time at a prayer breakfast when we lived in Indiana. I helped keep him alive until the professionals arrived, but I wouldn't say I raised the dead. Remember, when Jesus healed people, it wasn't just for the sake of physical healing, but for restoring them to their place in community, rebuilding relationships, giving them dignity. But at the same time, in a real sense, if we're continuing to wear masks and make masks and help and provide for those who have to stay at home, we are helping to cure the sick. And when we help people find a new way forward out of tragedy, when we support addicts in recovery, when we try to give hope to people who have no hope, we are bringing the dead to life with God's help. Thankfully, leprosy isn't a big risk in this area or even in this country anymore, but there are many ways that people have been made to feel outcast or unwanted, or not good enough. So when we follow Jesus' example of embracing the outcasts and support those who fall through the cracks, we are following in Jesus' way. Remember, he said that when we help the least of these, we are helping him. We are encountering him, just as Abraham encountered God in those 3 visitors to whom he showed hospitality. Finally, the demons. There are some Christians who talk a lot about personified demons who are doing all kinds of things to harm God's people. That's a whole other conversation we could have sometime. But there are things that continue to possess and corrupt us. Racism and a history in America of treating some groups of people as if they are inherently inferior. Sexism, greed that makes profits more important than people. Fear, mistreatment of strangers. I could go on. Sadly, Christians have contributed to these things over the centuries, and in some cases, they still are doing so. And yet, if we look at Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount and elsewhere, we are called to love our enemies, to turn the other cheek, to seek forgiveness, to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, and to visit the prisoner. Sure, these are big problems and can't be fixed overnight. But if we ignore these problems, we allow them to continue. Now, it may seem strange to be talking about being sent out by Jesus in the midst of social distancing. But I believe that there are ways that each of us can participate in these kinds of curing the sick, raising the dead, cleansing lepers, and casting out demons. And remember, we're not asked to do it on our own power and abilities, but Jesus is sending and equipping us. There are a lot of people angry and hurt these days. There are some people out there who want to stir things up and report false things and instigate more violence. It could be easy to say that we ourselves haven't done the kinds of bad things that people are complaining about, and so we shouldn't have to worry about it. But once we know about it, if we don't speak up, if we don't try to change ourselves and our communities, then we are helping to perpetuate the evil. I would like to conclude with a prayer from Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, Jesus, I want to be on your right side, or your left side, not for any selfish reason. I want to be on your right side or your best side, not in terms of some political kingdom or ambition, but I just want to be there, in love and in justice, and in truth, and in commitment to others, so we can make of this old world a new world. Amen. I hope you have a good week. I hope you have opportunities to help others and to speak up for God's love. Amen.